What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and AJ, we are here for a breaking news podcast as it has officially happened after what seems like a long time, AJ, and I'm sure it feels like even longer to you that this whole, I'm going to call it a saga. I've called it a saga for a couple of days now, and I think it's fine doing so. But this saga has officially come to an end as Carolina finally announces, I'm using the word finally because he was linked, it's been a while since this initial reports about this came out, has hired Bill Belichick as its new head football coach. Still feels a bit weird saying that. Again, if you would have told me a month ago that Carolina would be hiring, heck, if you would have told me the day before Mac got fired that Carolina would have a new coach and it would be Bill Belichick, I would have probably laughed in your face. But
a lot of people did.
Yeah, 100%. And
a lot of people in Chapel Hill did.
I know. And
I'll tell you that in a minute.
Because this is going to be initial reactions podcast. Just to preface what we're going to talk about here, we're going to do a separate podcast that goes into more of the backstory and how all this kind of played out behind the scenes. So stay tuned for that. This one's not going to dive as much into that. Again, this is going to be more so just initial reaction and kind of talking about what Carolina's gotten. 6-time Super Bowl champion Bill Belichick is a new head coach. So, AJ, like I said, it's been a saga. It feels like it's played out and feels like it's something that's been going on for quite a while. I think it's something that probably took a little bit longer than most people expected, and probably safe to say most people wanted it to, but the finish line has been reached and Carolina's officially here. So what are your let's start here, AJ. I don't even want to ask you your immediate reactions to the hire. We'll talk about that in a second. What were your immediate reactions to when you first started hearing that, hey, this thing actually has legs here? Were you surprised, shocked? I mean, what did you thought when Bill Belichick was actually, linked officially to the job?
It seems like we've been, to your point you made a minute ago, and I'll answer the question in a second, how long it's been. I mean, it seems like they've been courting Belichick since Mary gave birth.
It does.
Yeah, really. And there is no immediate reaction. Like, we would like to phrase this as a immediate reaction, but truth be told, this is our second podcast that we've done. We recorded one a few days ago. You're like, well, okay, let's do a new one because, hey, we have a lot more information now. It is an evolving story behind the scenes. We have chronicled that very accurately and with tremendous depth on our message board. In the coaching search thread, we have posted multiple updates every day. So if you're on there and you're following it, you can kind of see how this thing is unfolding behind the scenes. Now, so my immediate reaction is, thank goodness it's done, because I was talking to someone at UNC yesterday, and they called to comment about the super in-depth post, or it was Tuesday, I guess. I don't even know what day it is. See?
Yeah, who knows? I don't even know what day it is.
And I said, when I updated it and said Tuesday afternoon post, I said I actually had to go look up my phone to make sure it was Tuesday, because I didn't know if it was Tuesday or not. Yeah. I was earlier today, I realized I have not been in my car since I got back from the basketball game in Chapel Hill Saturday. Like, I've just been here. Unless I go out and get my steps, I've been here sitting in this room, working on this. My battery ran out on this on Tuesday, and it's a fairly new iPhone. It takes a lot to burn the battery on that thing, and it ran out. Had to charge the phone. So my point is, immediate reaction, yes, because it's finally here and we can actually talk about it as if now that it's happened instead of it's about to happen or it might happen. And I think I'm going to say it's a really good move for North Carolina, because I think North Carolina is a program that needed to shake the foundation big time. The status quo, and this is me talking, and this is a lot of sources I've talked to for the last couple of weeks, hearing them, thinking about it, seeing Belichick on Pat McAfee the other day, having that back up a lot of things I was hearing from people, and just having it slowly sort of seep in. And it makes a whole lot of sense, because what has North Carolina got to lose at this point? You had Mac Part 2 with swaths of empty seats this year. So if Mac Part 2, if Mac Brown, the greatest coach in school's history, a guy who does things the right way, never did anything really to embarrass the school except the saving lives comment in his final addressed to us. It wasn't even a press conference. I thought that was a bad look. He rightfully got a lot of heat for that. But there's no reason to dislike Mac. Mm-hmm. He checks so many boxes as a man and as a guy who runs a program, but they didn't win enough. And he didn't deliver him what he said he was going to do, as much as some of us tried to explain to people that the sport changed while he was there. And North Carolina was not as good a job when he left as it was when he got there. That's why you need to do something very different, step way outside the Carolina way box, which has got to be kicked to the curb in the new era of college athletics. And when you have the greatest coach in the history of the sport call you and say, hey, I'm interested, you've got to listen. And then when you listen and he unveils an exceptionally well thought out, laid out, deep, intrinsic plan for your program, not a program, your program, you've got to listen again. You've got to keep talking to him. That's ultimately what happened here. North Carolina, he won North Carolina over. They won him over, even though there were some bouncy issues from within the process. It wasn't, not everybody was holding hands and singing Kumbaya, but they got it done. And now they turn it over to someone who knows what he's doing. Yeah, he hadn't coached in college anymore, but maybe that's actually a positive, because everybody has said all along, man, this guy's never coached in college. How can you do it? College is a lot more like the pros now than ever before. There's no difference to me in the risk of getting a guy who's not coached in college than getting someone who's been in college for 25 years and most of that time knew the pre-portal, pre-NIL way and is still trying to adapt. As much as Matt Campbell, I thought would be a great coach, he hasn't had the same kind of resources at Iowa State and fertile ground around him that he would have at North Carolina. So it would take a lot of adapting for him. He would have to change his feathers maybe a little bit more, because Belichick has already said, I am willing to change my feathers. I'm willing to go to college. I'm willing to go to this sleeping giant that's been on snooze for a century, and I'm willing to try it there. I have a plan. I kind of like that. Mm-hmm. So when you haven't won an ACC title since 1980 and you finished ranked, twice since 1997? Yeah, man, let's just roll the dice and roll big dice, because this guy's the greatest of all time. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least you tried something unique. And if it works, what a genius move it turns out to be.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I think it's grown on me. I tweeted out earlier this week. The hiring, when I first heard it, I think like most people was kind of like, hey, I didn't really believe it. I thought it was BS. But when reports first started emerging that Carolina or Bill Belichick was interested in Carolina, were interested in potentially hiring him, you kind of look at it and say, you fired a 73-year-old to hire a 72-year-old. And again, I've said this before. Age doesn't really matter. If Mac Brown finished 10-2 last year, people wouldn't be talking about his age, and he'd be the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I think the age is just a low-hanging fruit thing that always gets picked at because it's easy to pick at. So, but I do need to preface that because they're very similar in age, and it is a older coach at the end of the day. So when I first heard that and kind of hearing that, and you're like, I don't know about this. I don't know if this is a good move from Carolina. But when you learn more, and we'll talk more about the backstory in a separate podcast, but like you mentioned, I look at it like this. It was an unforeseen opportunity that just fell in Carolina's lap. They're looking like, wait, Bill Belichick wants to coach here. Well, we'll talk to him. Get blown away by what he tells you. And then you look at who else we know Carolina was linked to. And you look at those names and you say, okay, I got Bill Belichick over here who really wants to come here, who's reaching out to us for this job. And you got these other guys who, yeah, they've done some nice things in some other schools. We're not sure how interested they really are. If they do well here, how long do they stay? Maybe they jump ship and go to a bigger football program somewhere else. It kind of is things evolved, and you learn more about Belichick's real desire to be here. After a few days and after this kind of saga plays out, you're kind of like, well, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for Carolina to at least give it a try, especially with the current state of college football, too, because it has changed with NIL. It's different. It's more like the pros than it's ever been before. And when you look at what Bill's telling you behind the scenes, when you look at the things he wants to do here, things that we've heard and things that he was, talked to Carolina about, you're like you just said, AJ, you're kind of like, okay, there's no guarantee this works. There's no guarantee you could hire anybody. I don't care who it is. You can hire anybody. There's zero guarantee anybody you hire works in any realm of life. You just never know. But when you compare him to the other candidates and what he's telling you and what he's done in his past, 6-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, I got a whole list here I could go through. I'm not going to waste our time with it. People know who Bill Belichick is. You're kind of sitting here like, man, this is a no-brainer, and this is something Carolina, I think, should at least try, because everything that's being said and how this whole situation played out, you got to do it. And let's talk about this too, AJ. It kind of got to a point where, because of all these links going on, because of how long it was happening, and he was being linked to it and the information that was coming out over days and days and days, it got to a point where it was kind of Bill Belichick or bust for North Carolina. You couldn't really go back after that. You had to get this guy, especially from a fan perspective, AJ. Can you imagine if you're linked to Belichick for over a week, and you hear all these reports and everything going on, he's interviewing for the job, and then you don't get him, and you go and hire somebody else? There was automatically going to be apathy no matter what. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's just the fact of the situation. So when you look at how everything played out, when you look at who Carolina's gotten in Bill Belichick, if you had asked me a week ago, I would have said this doesn't really make sense. But knowing what I know now and knowing how the situation played out, which again, we'll talk about in a separate podcast, I think it's a really nice hire from North Carolina, and I'm very, very, very intrigued to see how it plays out, to say the least.
I think it's above a what the hell hire. I think that one of the things that, in talking with multiple sources on a regular basis since Mary gave birth, like I said, you can bring in somebody else who might be around longer, but it might take them longer to figure things out there. It might take them longer to get things going. It might take them longer to adjust the foundation. And the foundation, I think, would have been different if Belichick was never in the equation than what it is now. I wrote that piece last week about what the new coach is going to inherit, what kind of organization, basically. And it's much better than what Mac inherited. I went ahead and tweeted it out again Tuesday, just as a reminder. I said, this is now where you start from. Belichick wasn't going to be satisfied with that. So now North Carolina has committed a lot more to football, and Belichick has forced that. So if it doesn't work out with Belichick, or if he says after 3 years, Carolina has their starting point then with the next coach is going to be so much higher than where it would have been last week if they never talked to Belichick. So they've already gained. The Carolina football fan who has been dying for this program, for this school to invest and make big boy football, make an attempt to have big boy football, that is in the process of occurring right now. So you're going to benefit from Belichick. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, they get John Sumrall in 3 years instead of now. He would have walked into a far better situation right now than what Mac did 6 years ago. He's going to walk into a dramatically better situation in 3 years than he would right now because of what Belichick has gotten the school to do. So Carolina is ultimately going to be better off for this simply because of that commitment, because Carolina has decided it's time to go all in on football. You've got to invest all these resources to a new way of thinking about how college football needs to run. And there are a lot of people at the school that have been very resistant to that for a while. And now they went ahead and pulled the trigger on this. And now it shows that they're not. And they're not going to go back to the old way. They're not going to go back and rehire John Bunning. They're going to continue moving forward. So I do think that this changes the program. Even if it's not successful under Belichick, at least they will then have a starting point for the next guy. And I think that that's hugely important, and it's not being discussed out there. It is one of the factors about why you do this, because as I've said for several days now, you wanted to have an earthquake underneath the program. What does a massive earthquake do? It changes the landscape. It changes the foundation. It forces you to redo the water pipes and rewire the electricity and all that stuff. That's what is happening at the Keenan Football Center right now by making this move. So even if you don't like it, even if you question it, even if you think it's not going to work, Carolina football is still going to benefit. And you know what? What if he comes in, boom, shot in the arm, gets this thing going right away? If he gives you 5 years, 4 years, and you win, and you maintain national relevance because the national media is going to cover them. Look at the news cycles here in the last 5 days, 6 days. Think about what happened to Colorado overnight because of Deion Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
North Carolina is going to be on prime time against TCU to kick off the season next year, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're a different animal now. You cannot put a price tag on the amount of publicity North Carolina football's gotten. You and I were talking before we hit record. Here's the truth. We look at numbers. We know exactly what the fans think because we have Facebook, we have our YouTube channel, we have Twitter, and we have our site, and we know what the numbers are. Nobody's talking about basketball right now. And the basketball team has a lot to talk about because they've been pitiful lately. Mm-hmm. And usually that brings a swell of commentary. Everyone's talking about football. So North Carolina wins. Mm-hmm. Now, it may cause problems down the road as far as, he does things his way, and he's a Belichick at a press conference, and UNC's not used to having outspoken guys in press conferences. I say forward to that. How many weird things did Roy say in pressers that embarrassed people or people had to walk back? Mm-hmm. If he wins, no one's going to care. So why not? The greatest coach of all time, a guy who saw something in Tom Brady in the last round, a guy who moved on from Drew Bledsoe to give Tom Brady the job, and he turned out to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the sport. Who did that? Do you know who Lawrence Taylor's linebacker coach was with the New York Giants when he went there as a rookie? Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. Taylor was who he was, but your position coach has to unleash you. Lawrence Taylor changed the position. He changed defense. He made left tackles financially secure for life because they had to worry about him. Who was the guy behind that? Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm. You're right, man. You're absolutely right. And last thing I'll say about it before we head out, because again, the Backstory podcast will have a little bit more information on all this and how it kind of played out. But you mentioned it earlier. AJ, Carolina haven't won ACC championships since 1980. I'm 29 years old. I was very, very young, 2-3 years old when Carolina, Mac Brown 1.0, when he kind of knocked on the ceiling in 96, 97. They've been largely mediocre for my entire life. You got a guy like Bill Belichick who reaches out to you, who wants the job, who wows you in interviews, who fits the model of college football now a lot more than he would have 10, 15 years ago. Heck, even 5 years ago.
He might be the model moving forward.
Exactly. But I look at it like this. What does Carolina really have to lose, man? Why would you not at least try it? And that's where my mindset and opinion on him coming is shifted over the last week and a half or a week or a week.
You have empty seats with Mac Brown and apathy with Mac Brown. Where do you go from there? John Summerall wasn't going to get butts in the seats. Matt Campbell would have enticed a few people who really know college football, but most fans have no idea who he is. They've never seen Iowa State before. Don't even know what their colors are. So you would have continued. The next guy would have had to pick up the pieces of apathy one by one, like scattered brooks, like a truck that tips over on an interstate and there's all kinds of stuff that spills out everywhere. Imagine the next coach having to pick up every item one by one. What happens here with this is you got a big firm that comes in, a company comes in, sweeps it all up, clears out the road. It goes from 4 lanes to 8. Mm-hmm. And you got Bill Belichick steering the ship there. We're driving along that giant 18-wheeler, honking the horn saying, we're here, guys. I'm going to do things that I'm – and you're also talking about a guy who doesn't need the job. You're talking about a guy who doesn't need the money. You're talking about a guy who wanted to prove something. And we're going to talk about all this in the next podcast. But I think it got to a point where Carolina had no choice but to make this decision. And it did. And it stayed with it. I credit Carolina for saying, hey, man – you got 45 minutes and we're pulling off and we're going to go hire a guy from Army. Mm-hmm. So they didn't do that. They recognized that, we're all in. We got to make this happen because I think a lot of people I've talked to did recognize that. They acknowledged that there would be some embarrassment, and I got harsher words than that. But sometimes it's worth the wait. Sometimes it's worth that limbo period that they've been in for a while to get something, to do something that just changes the landscape. That's the intent here. We'll see if it works. But I think right now it's a why the heck not situation. And I applaud those for sticking with it and making it happen because now I get to cover the greatest football coach of all time. So selfishly, I'm excited about that. Even if he's a curmudgeon in press conferences, I don't care. I've dealt with curmudgeons before.
Yeah,
I've dealt with tough guys, so I'll be good.
Yeah, no, he'll be completely fine with it. Yeah, and I mean, again, people can have their own opinions on the hire. I understand why you would be a little bit skeptical. I understand why you'd be incredibly excited. But here's the fact right here, AJ. I'll leave people with. Bill Belichick comes in. If he wins games, he'll be a success. If he doesn't, he won't be a success. As simple as that. That's how it works in sports. It's all about winning. It's all about sustaining that. If he can do that, then people will be looking back in a few years and being like, what an outstanding hire. And if he doesn't, people will be looking back in a few years and being like, what a dumb move from North Carolina.
Guarantee. Yeah. Here's a guarantee. They sell out the stadium next year every game.
Automatic excitement.
Jacob Turner, A&M Tech. East Jacob Turner, A&M Tech could come in and roll into the Keenan Stadium and the place is sold out.
Yeah, and every game will probably be at 8:00, so just cannot wait for that.
Oh, man.
You didn't even think about that.
Well,
you didn't even think about that.
I changed my mind. I want a coordinator from East Texas A&M.
Yeah, you will not sleep for 4 months, basically. So
I want an offensive line coach. I want a GA from Shreveport Tech.
Yeah.
So they can play at 9 a.m. every Saturday.
11 a.m. kickoff, man. It's just unbelievable. You didn't even think about that, did you? Unfortunately, that was one of the first things I thought about.
You completely ruined it for me. You just completely ruined it for me.
I was like, God, man.
Now I'm against the Belichick hire.
No noon kicks anymore. Noon kicks are a thing of the past now, at least for a year. So it's unbelievable, man. It's going to be. I mean, you notice how Colorado plays it and they're on the West Coast, but they play it 11 o'clock East Coast, 10 o'clock East Coast about every week. So that's where Carolina's going to be over here. So especially with the ACC network kickoffs, but oh well, it's part of the job, I guess, AJ. So we'll have to deal with it accordingly. But I think it's a good place to leave it. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you stay tuned for the Backstory podcast. That'll have a little bit more juicy information in it. And again, if you were signed up on our message boards for 833 a month, you would have heard about all this already pretty much. Every single bit of it.
I want to thank my sources. I want to thank the many people who trusted me during this process. It's been very rewarding. I've developed a couple of new relationships, which is good, and look forward to having interactions with those people where I'm not hunting and pecking. And this has been a ride, man. This is the second oddest search I've ever. I still say the NC State basketball search in 2006 was just bizarre. I had coaches calling me at 11 o'clock at night wanting the job and wanting me to promote them for the job during that search. So that didn't happen this time. I've never spoken to Bill Belichick in my life before, but I guess I will here soon.
Yeah, you definitely will here soon. But again, another great reason to sign up. Come on over. Links in the description below. $833 a month. You can be a Carolina insider too. And like I said, if you're already over there, man, you would have been all over this with all the information and updates AJ was putting out. Sometimes 3 a day. So yeah, great place to be, and one of the many perks you get for signing up. So come on over and join our awesome community at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. If you don't want to sign up, you can shoot us a Venmo at Tar Heel Illustrated just to say thanks for all the hard work that we do, and all that goes back into running the business, paying staff, travel, all that stuff, because we go where the Tar Heel.
And if you have a business, we're looking for advertisers.
Yeah, good point too. Yeah, if you're interested in that, reach out to us.
We had a couple of advertising relationships end lately, so we've got plenty of space, plenty of opportunity, and we are absolutely would love to do them here on the podcast.
For sure. Yeah, come on, reach out to us if you're interested. You can Twitter, you can go on our website and reach out to us, but there's many ways to get in contact with us. Probably DM on Twitter would be the easiest, but yeah, just reach out to us, guys. We'd absolutely love to talk and see if we can work something out. So appreciate y'all watching. Like the video below if you're excited about Bill Belichick and excited about what he can do, and a new dawn officially starting in Chapel Hill. And yeah, guys, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.